All of you, hope you guys are great. So in the last video we have completed the entire component of our application, and I believe that you guys have completed those component, and if you guys have encountered any error, make sure to re-watch that. In this video we're going to work on our index page. So far everything is looking fine. You can see we have built all of these components and we have no issues in that. So this is the header. We have this login component. You can click on close, you can click on the sign up, you can close this one, and this is the product component, this is the notification component, this is the upload component. You can click and you can open the file. This is the logo we have, this is the button we have, and this is the filter we have. This is the cart component, this is the donate, this is the form component we have, and this is the login one, and this is the sign up one, and this is the profile, this is the checkbox, and this is the footer. Every single thing is working fine. You can see we have no issues in that. Let's come back to the code, and we are here on the layout page, and this is what we have done here. So it looks pretty good to me. I'm going to close that one, and now we have to start working on our index page. And here in the index page we're going to bring all the component, and we're going to build all the logic for getting the data and feeding the data. So first we have to import a couple of things from React. We need use state and use effect, that's coming from React. Then we have to import the image, that's coming from Next.js. Then we have to import the XCS because we have to make API request. Then we have to do the internal import. So in that we have to import all of the components: card, upload, button. We need profile, header, footer, notification, logo, filter, form, and that's all coming from our component. So we are importing all of the component, and we're going to use all of these component into our index page. Now we have to import our use state context because we have already built our context, and I believe that you guys have watched that. And this context will allow us to fetch all the information from our contract and send information in our contract, and this coming from our context NFTs. Now we have to import the images, and this is come from the client images. Now we have to build the home page. So first we have to take a couple of state variable. So the one we're going to take is this. So let's take this address. So all of this data will come from the context. So we'll take the address, we'll take this disconnect, we'll take the contract, we'll take the connect, we'll take this use balance, we'll take the upload image function to the contract, and this function will also upload the image to the IPA, our centralized system. Then we have to take the get uploaded image. Then we'll take the set loading, we'll take the loading, and all of this function we are getting from the contract. And now we have to get the function from the API. So we'll take this get all NFT API, and that's what we're going to call it, and that's all coming from our context. Hope so far things are clear to all of you guys. Now come here, we have to take a variable, open profile, and this state variable will open the profile. By default we have to hide it, but when someone will click on the profile image, it will going to open it. Then we're going to take this close form and close form state variable. By default it will be true. Then we'll take this file and set file. Initially it will be null. Then we'll take this display. By default it will be null. Then we'll take this notification, and by default it will be empty. Then take another state variable. Here in this we're going to keep all the images. So we'll say by default it will be an empty array. We'll take another one, and this will call active state for the filter, and by default we want to say old images. Then we'll take another one, this will say copy, and set copy image, empty array. Now we have to make a call, so we'll say get data, and here we have to build a function which allow us to fetch the information from the contract. So we'll say this const old image, it's been be an empty array, and here we have to call this function fetch image. It's going to be an async function because we are dealing with the promises. We'll say const images, we have to call the function get uploaded images, and we can set all that image into our let's in the variable all image variable state variable. Then we have to make a request to our API because we can get the image both from the contract and from the API. So let's build the function for the API as well. We'll say API image, and this function will give us all the image which we have in our centralized database. Okay, so that's what we have. And now we have to take this use effect, because we want to call this function when the page is loaded. So we'll say if contract exists, then we have to call the function, and if there is a change in the address and the contract, then we have to call the function. So looks fine. So this is the very first function we have. Now come here, we'll take this if statement. We'll say if all image length is equal to 0, means there is no data in the all image. In that context, what I have to do is I have to take this console.log call loading. Once we have the data, we have to simply set that data. We'll take the data and we're going to simply loop over it and push that data into our old images, because we have to store in that state variable, and that's what we're going to render. So we are simply pushing that data. Now we have to take this image data, and here we go say category, set category. So this data will allow us to take the data from the user and we can pass our contract. So this is for the category, and here we'll take another one. We'll say image info, and it's kind of object, so we'll say title. And the reason why I have taken this category separate state variable, because we have 3 different categories. Okay, so once someone will click, we'll update that, and that data we want to pass it. So we'll take the description, we'll take the email, and we'll take the category, and we'll take the image. So these are the 5 data we are taking in our image info. Now we can come up here, we'll take a handle, form, field, change functions, the same function we have to build here. So we'll say field name empty, event, and then we have to call this set image info, and then we have to deconstruct that. Then we have to say field name and target value. So that's the first function we have. Now come here, we'll call the upload function, and this function is pretty important function, because this function will allow us to upload the data to the IPFS, the distributed database on the blockchain. So that's what we are working on. So first we'll take this const, we'll say handle submit. So this is the name I'm giving to the function, and here you have to be a little precautive and try to understand that what logic we are building here. And this is the exact logic you can apply anywhere in any type of dApp when it's come to uploading the data. So it will be an async function. So first what we'll do is we have to prevent the default behavior of the form. Once we do that, now we have to take this set close form to false, close to form. Then we have to call this set loading to true, because we have to display that loading. And we'll say if file, means if we have the file, means the data is there, then we have to call the function. Inside that we have to take this try and catch block, because if anything goes wrong, we have to tackle that as well. So we'll take this const form data, and we'll use this new form data. Then we have to take the form data and we have to append. So this is the key value, key name we are providing, and this is the value. So our key is file and the value is file. So that's the form data. Now we have to get the response, and this is the data we have to pass. You can pass multiple data. Right now we are just passing the image URL. You can store all the data. Okay, so let's come here. We'll take this method post, and we have to pass the URL. So this is the endpoint you have to pass, and this is the endpoint I got from the Pinata documentation, and this is the exact endpoint you have to make when you want to upload NFTs or images or data to the IPFS through Pinata. So this is the Pinata endpoint, and I'm not coming up with this, it's all there in their documentation. I'm just modifying a little bit. This is the URL. Now we have to get the data and form data. Now we have to take the header, and here we have to pass the keys. So first we have to pass the Pinata API key, and I believe that you guys know how to get that. Here I'm going to provide my, and when you will get the source code, you will get this particular key, and you can use that. And you have to get the secret key from Pinata. So let me pass this secret key, which is my. So this is the Pinata key and secret key. Now here we have to provide the content type, multi-form data, because if you don't provide that, your data is not going to be stored on the blockchain. So that's the configuration you have to do, and that's the header configuration. Now we have to come back here, and once the thing went successfully, it will give us the response back. So we'll take a variable called image, and this will be a endpoint for the images. So let me build the endpoint. This is the endpoint we have in the documentation, and in the response we'll have the hash of the image. So we can access that hash by calling response.data.ipfs hash. So this is the hash for the image. So that's the one we have here. Now we have to say await upload, and we have to call the function. So we have to first deconstruct our entire image informations, then we have to simply update the image which we have, and then we have to update the category as well. So these are the data we are passing, and that would be available in our upload image function. So come here, now we have to say set file null, because once the upload is done, we have to clear the states, so that will prevent double upload. So looks fine, set file, and then we have to catch error if anything goes wrong. Console.log.error. So it looks pretty good. Close this one, and close this one. So this is the entire function we have written for uploading, and here we can say set null for the safer side. Now that's the entire function for upload, and now we have to write the function for retrieving the file from the user. This is the function we have passed in our upload. Hope you guys haven't forgot the last video, last video in that we have built this logics. So let's build the function. We'll say retrieve file. It will take the event. Now first we have to get the data, so we'll say const data.e.target.file, and we have to get the file 0. Once we have the file, we have to take the variable called render, new window file render. Then we'll say render as array buffer and pass the data. Then we'll say render.onloaded, and it will have a return function. So we'll set the file to target file. Hope things are making sense that what we are doing here. So we are passing the data, then we are just removing the prevent default behavior from the form, and close that. So this is our render function we have to get the data from the user. Now let's add one more function which allows us to display the data. So we'll say take image, we'll say const on changed. So this function will only for use so this function will only use for displaying the image in the component, not for uploading. It will take the event, and we'll take event.target.file and event.target.file 0. If that's the case, then we have to simply set the URL created object URL, and we have to pass the target event file. So this will set that, so we can display that one. So this is the on image change function we have. Now we have to work on the JSX. So we'll take this return, we'll take a div, it will have a class called home, and by the way, all the classes we have built in the global CSS file, so that's what we are getting here from. Then we will call our header component, and we have to send the props, so it's needs notification and set notification. So these are the two props we are sending here. Now we have to come back, we have to take a div, it will have a class called header, and here we have to display our h1. We'll say create 1000 NFTs for free, because Pinata will allow us to create 1000 in one API key and secret key. So that's one we have. Now we have to close the div. Then we'll take this upload component, we'll take a div, it will have a class called upload, and it will have a upload component, and in that we have to send couple of props. So we have to send this on change, the function we have created. Then we have to pass this display state variable. Then we have to pass the address, because these are the data we have used in the component. Then we have to pass the retrieve file function. So that's the upload component. Now we can come here, we'll take a div, it will have a class called upload info, and in that we have to display the h1. We'll say welcome to NFT IPFS upload. Down below we have to display a description, so you can type whatever you want. So this is the tagline I have: our products help you securely distribute any type of media at. So this is what I got from the UI UX. So let me type it very quickly. So let's close this one. So it looks pretty good to me. Now we can come here, we can take a div, it will have a class called avatar, and we'll take a button, we'll take a address, we have to send that prop. Then we have to take this disconnect function, and we have to send the connect function. So all of these props we are sending. Then we have to send the file function, because all of these props our button need. Close the button. Now we can come down here, we're going to take this address. If we have the address, then we have to display this particular one. We'll take the p tag, and in that we have to display the image. So we'll take the image, we'll take the class name avatar image, then we'll take the source, the hardcode image, then we'll take the width 40, let's hide 40. Let's take the on click function, we'll say set open profile true, and we have to close that one and close the p and close the dynamic block. So that's the first profile component we have for the image. Now we have to close the div. Now we have to close the div and close this one and take a h1, and we'll say subheading all NFT of marketplace. We'll come down, we'll take a dynamic block, not the dynamic block, we'll display our card component. So we'll say card, we'll say all image, and we have to simply loop over it. So if all image dot length equal to 0, and that we have to display our loader, means our logo component. Else if all image is equal to undefined, then we can say that no image, otherwise we have to render the component. So we'll take this fragment, we have to display our filter component. In that we have to send the data, the props. Will say set image copy to set image copy. We have to send the images copy prop, and we have to send the set all images, and we'll build this all images and select active and select active, set active select. So all of these props we have to send in the filter, otherwise our filter will not work properly. So that's the filter component. Now we have to get our div, it will have a class called card, and now we have to render the card component. So we'll take this all images and we're going to simply loop over it, and we're going to pass the data into our card component. So we'll take the card component and let's send the props. So we have to send the key 1, and we have to send the index 1, index I, because it will start from 0, and we have to send the image data. Then we have to set the set notification, because in our card we have this two component, one for copying the URL and the one is copying for the address. And close this one and close the dynamic block and the div. So this is the card component, looks pretty fine to me. Okay, now come here. Now we have to display the footer component, and here we're going to display all those component. So we'll come here, we'll say notification. So we'll say if we have notification is empty, then we don't want to display, but if there is something in the notification, then we have to display. And our notification component needs two props, notification and set notification. So these are the two props we are sending in our notification component. Close this one and close the dynamic block. Now we have to take the another one, which is a profile component. So if open profile is true, then we have to display the profile component. So we'll take a div, it will have a class called profile, and this will have the profile component, and in that we have to send the props. So we have to send the set open profile, and we have to send the user balance and his address. So these are the props we are sending and receiving in the profile component. Now close the div and close the dynamic block. So that's the profile. Now we can take the loader component, because whenever the creation login will happen, this is the loader we going to display. So we'll say loading, if it's true, then we have to display the logo. We'll take a div, it will have a class called loader. In that we have to display our logo. Close this one and close this one. Now we'll take another one called form, because this is the form will user use to upload the detail about the NFTs. Let's take a div. We'll say if file exists and close form, if file is exist and close form, then we have to take this div, it will have a class, then we want to display only the component. We'll say div, it will have a class called form inner, And we have to take the form component and we have to send all the props. So we have to send the set file, we have to send the set display, heading, from, field change, and the function, handle, submit. We'll display the set category, and we have to close the form. So these are the props we are sending into our form component. Now close the div, close the div, and close the dynamic block. Now close the div, close this one, and then we have to export the home component. So that looks pretty good. You can see we have done the entire work in our index page, the home page. These are the imports we are doing from React. These are the internal import, all the component we are importing. Close this one. Now this is the component, and this is the context. This is the images for the client, and these are the functions and the state variables we are using from the context. Very important. And these are the state variable we have taken for different component. This is the function for fetching the initial data at the time of page reload, and here we are checking the length, and this is the data from the image upload, and this is the handled field. This is for uploading the image to the IPFS and updating our state variable. So make sure to get your Pinata key and secret key, and that looks good. And close this one. This is the retrieve file. We are using this function to format the data, and so we can pass this to the Pinata state variable. And this is the on change, and this function will allow us to update our display state variable. This is the header component we have, head title. This is the upload, and this is the cart component we have. Simply close this one, and this is the footer, and we have all of this different component. Looks pretty good, and I believe that you guys have understood that what we have done. We have no issues here. Now we are ready to check. So come back to the application, and now we have to go to the, so you can see here we are not getting any issue. So let's come back here in the layout, remove this one, hit enter, and here we are on the home page, and everything is perfectly aligned. You can see right now we don't have any data, and it's throwing us this error because we tried to start our application and the backend server together. And the reason why it's throwing this particular error message, because we have only started the front end, not the back end, and that's why you can getting this 404 error status. Means everything's working fine. You don't need to worry about that, because we're going to fix this one. If you reload the page, still you will get the same error, but all the components, everything is working fine. You can select and it will open up the pop-up. So all the logics are working absolutely incredible. Close this one and let's have a look. Reload the browser, still you will have the error, and so still we are getting this error message. Don't need to worry about that. So close this one, and things are looking pretty good. Now we can come back to the VS Code, and that looks pretty awesome to me. So finally we are done with this entire home page, and I believe that you guys are on the same stage where I am now, and you guys have built the entire component, and you have all the data is displaying absolutely perfect. Right now we are getting this 404 error because we are not started our backend server, but we are trying to call that our backend function in our application. That's why we are getting this error, but I'll show you how to do the configuration. With that, let's move to the next video, and that we're going to work on our other component, other page. So let's move to that.